Oh, Jen, did you
Oh,
happen to hear about the turkey that plays baseball?
turkey that plays baseball. No.
He covers first base.
It's so
Ah,
stupid. Hey, that's super fun because Tara loves baseball.
I was just
Oh,
gonna say, as a
I know.
baseball nut, I'm
and
just
it's
saying.
turkey related.
Yeah.
I
Couldn't.
love, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm baseball fanatic.
Yeah.
I
Gobble
was at the
gobble.
I was at the airport the other day, in the Orlando airport, and I'm a big Yankees fan, and a woman had on a Dodgers cap, and I was like, "Move away! It's too soon. It's too soon. I'm not healed yet. I'm not healed. Move."
It's only been like a week or two, right?
I know. And like, move away, lady. Move.
All
Nothing.
right.
Yes.
Everybody, welcome to this episode of So Much Genergy. It's me, Jenny McKinney, and I am here with Jeff Jones.
Jen, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being back. You're back from New York.
I am. I'm back permanently. Well,
Yeah.
until I think for the rest of this year. I don't think I'm gonna have to travel again until next year.
Okay, nice, nice.
Yeah.
And we are super excited. So we have our new friend here. She is an international clean comedian, Tara Brown.
Hey, Jenny and Jeff, how are you?
Good.
Thank you for
Welcome to
having me.
So Much Energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is her energy. Like, I want to bottle this up. You should sell this. She should sell this. And what I
If,
love so much about you, it's always that.
Oh
And I
yeah.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that
It's
so much.
like,
consistent.
if you
Yeah.
put down 4 cans of Four Loco every day, you can also act like that.
Like,
Four
Jeff,
Loco.
Jeff, I
Yeah.
have to ask, as a native New Yorker, what were you doing in New York?
Oh, I was working.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah.
originally from
Just Oh, okay. No, we were
Mhm.
about 40 minutes just to the west of the city. Chester,
Oh, you were upstate New York.
is it upstate? I think we're only about 40 minutes from
Well, or
the.
you were in the suburbs. Well, the funniest thing about New Yorkers are snobs in the sense that when you say you're from New York City, if you're not from the five boroughs of New York City, you might as well
Yeah,
say you're from Canada. Like, we
yeah.
don't count it New York City. We're like, you're not
Oh,
from Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, Manhattan, or Staten Island. You're not from New York.
no, this was like Orange County.
Oh yeah, no.
No,
You're
no.
practically in New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah,
landed in
exactly.
New Jersey, and it was about an hour and a half to where we were
I
at.
told you. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
was there
love it.
for 10 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for having me. I'm so excited. Jenny, when you reached out to me, it just meant the world because I think so much of you. And like I said, I admire so very much your energy and the way you present yourself. So I'm happy to
Thanks.
be here talking to you.
Yeah, I'm excited. So, Tara is a comedian and she's so originally from New York. Now you live in Nashville,
Do.
correct?
I
Yep.
do.
And you were in Charlotte.
For 20 years, Charlotte. I love Charlotte.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, everybody in Charlotte.
Yeah, good times over there. So
Mhm.
it's funny because um being in the comedy scene, Tara and I were in the same kind of groups and have, mutual friends, but
Yeah.
never met. So
Isn't
I'm
that
super
funny?
excited. Yeah.
We're in each other's orbit, but this
I
is the
know.
first time we're meeting. I love this
I
so much.
know. I know.
I love
And it's
that.
so funny too because Don Garrett did he did a podcast that I listened to and he was talking about Johnson City and all I did
Yes.
is reach out to him and then we were like instant buddies right from the get.
He's a great, great guy. We consider ourselves siblings in comedy, so he's my
Yeah.
brother in
I
comedy.
love that. Yeah,
Yeah,
just a
Nice.
good guy,
I like Don.
Oh, Don. Yeah, we've had him on the show I think a few times.
oh,
Yeah, I think he
nice.
was on a handful of
Yeah, one
times.
or two times. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, good
I'll
times.
tell you a funny story about Don. We always laugh about this. So one day he and I were driving to a show in Raleigh, and we're talking, and so we were saying we should get something to eat. And we just started talking about different type of cuisines, and Indian food came up, and I was like, oh my gosh, Indian food is so spicy, it makes me sick. He goes, we should get Indian. And I just stared at him like for like the longest time because I'm thinking, I can't eat Indian food before the show. That's not gonna work. And he must have picked up on what I was thinking. He goes, no, 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 not right now, another time. And we laughed so hard about that. Because we're just like, I was like, we can't do Indian right now. It's just, it's one of those kind of inside jokes that's probably super funny to me and him. But
Yeah.
I have so much thinking about that because I was just like, oh, not Indian. No. And what was going through my head was, I can't eat Indian, but he's my rod. And if he
Yeah.
wants to eat Indian, I have to eat Indian. It was just so funny. So I adore Don.
Yeah, that's really funny. So
Yeah.
speaking of that, is there anything that you've had, not necessarily like food before a show, but you had, do you get nervous before you do comedy or, you
All the
know,
time.
yeah, I,
All the time. It's funny. I feel like I probably don't get as nervous as I used to get. I thankfully been doing this now for a little over 10 years. And in the beginning, I was really nervous. Like I wouldn't eat anything or just all of that stuff. But I can't, I wish I could remember the name of the podcast I heard this on, but I heard someone say once before that nervousness and excitement pulls from the same part of your brain. So if you keep saying to yourself, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited, it'll start to tell yourself that. So the nervousness will start to kind of dissipate. And I started doing that. And then also like that 6, 7, 8 method where you breathe in 6 seconds, hold it 7 seconds, and breathe out for 8 seconds, like 3 times. And I found that I do that a lot and it helps me. And so yeah, but for me the nerves are always there because you want to have a good show. My motto is I don't know what anyone is going through who came in the room to see me. Listen, we all have stuff. You know what I mean? We walk in the room with stuff. My job is to make you forget about that for however long I'm on stage. So I take that as a huge responsibility. So it feels weighty to me. You know what I mean? I want to make sure people are having a good time.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I love all of everything that you just said because that absolutely resonates with me. Where I actually say I have excited bladder now. Like every time before I do something, I'm like, "Ooh, I have excited bladder. I'll be right back." Like,
Yeah, I love that. I
I
love that.
even say it, but no matter what it is. And so I love that you're turning that nervousness into excitement, and the crowd can feel that too. You know what I mean? So if you get
Yeah,
up there and even though let's say, because excitement is saying like I'm here to share this information with you and we're
yeah,
going to have an exchange. So hopefully what I say is funny and then you're going to laugh and then we have this exchange. But I understand what you're saying about it
yeah.
being weighted on you.
And I'm sure you've learned this too. An audience decides very quickly whether or not they like you. In the first few seconds, they can tell
Right.
whether or not they like you. So you have to get them out the gate. And I remember when I first started doing comedy, I was so nervous. I was talking so fast, and I was talking to my because I felt like I had such imposter syndrome, and I was like, I got to get off the stage. As it started to go on, I learned to slow up and enjoy it. And then it meant so much. And I was like, it's okay. And what you also learn is that, they have this thing we all know in comedy about laughs per minute, right? And people get caught up in having to have the laughs per minute. But sometimes the beauty, and what I'm finding now, the beauty is when you're telling a joke, and I'm a storyteller type comedian, and when they're not laughing, but they're listening,
Yes.
because at the end there's going to be a payoff that they're going to like. So I love when I can look out in the audience and I see people locked in. And something that recently happened to me that I just thought was so sweet. I now have the opportunity to perform on Carnival Cruises, and so this last cruise I just recently got off of, I was talking to one of the guests, and she said, "You know what I like about you?" She goes, you talk slow in a way that I can understand you because she has a partial hearing loss. So she says, I can't really hear the jokes, but I can read your lips. And so the fact that she said, and I heard about 60% of what you said, my husband told me the other 40%. And so, but she got it. And then at one of the other shows, I noticed her in the second row. And so as I'm telling a lot of the jokes, I'm looking directly at her. And so after the show, she goes, I see what you did there, So, but I love that, and
Yeah.
my thing too is I'm a huge people person. So I love connecting with audiences. And my big thing after shows, I'm like, give me all the hugs. Like I love hugging people. And so I enjoy it. And I feel like I think when you still get nervous, I feel like that means you still care.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever had this before? Where you're at a show and let's say the setup is a little bit different. So, for example, I was at a restaurant, bar, and they
Yeah.
had just like random tables and chairs all put together. And the one lady was facing backwards. She would not turn around and look at me. And every time I was making a joke, right? she would turn around just like I'm gonna show you what she did. She was like,
Oh no. Oh, like you were
like
annoying her. Wow.
yes. And so that made me laugh even harder during my set because of how disgusted she was. First of all, I don't know if she was just there with friends or what, but the
Did she
comedy
not
night
know
was
there was going to be a
advertised.
comedy?
I
Did she
don't
not know
know.
there was going to be a comedy show?
I don't know.
She
I
didn't know
feel
there
like
was going to be a comedy show. Okay.
I interrupted her pretzels and beer or something.
Okay. Exactly. Oh my
Don't
goodness.
know. But that made me laugh even harder. So, but I love that you share like the connection between you and the audience. So,
Yeah.
Jeff Jones, he's done comedy before. He writes a lot of comedy either for me or we have stories that we write together.
Oh, I love that.
I do
Yeah.
feel that like much like a lot of what you guys are saying, that's what I bring to the job site. I feel
Yeah.
like the job site. I'm not gonna lie, because I work with different crews of guys almost every day, different jobs almost every day, and every
Yeah.
day it's like a different audience to me.
Yeah.
And my whole goal that day is to bring to the job site an uplifting amount of energy that's not so like in your face because a lot of guys working construction don't want that.
Right.
Yeah.
But what they
Yeah.
do like is just people being in good moods and just
Yeah.
being in a good mood.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I get to, and honestly, I get to use a lot of jokes and try a lot of material and jokes at different varieties of workers. Some guy, you know what I mean, at different age, all the way
Yeah.
from like 60 and 70 down to 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And honestly, because of my kids, I have two sons that are teenagers. I pick up a lot of slang and ridiculous meaning of words that I get to sling around to the young guys on the job site, bond with them. Then I get to turn around and talk about ZZ Top, Leonard Skinner with the older guys, bond
Yeah.
with them. And honestly, everybody, I don't want to toot my own horn, but like really enjoys working with me because I get along with everybody on every job site and every crew. Now I'm
Yeah.
not the annoying guy that's walking around talking all day. That's the other thing is I'm constantly
Yeah.
working. So like if
Isn't that
you're
the great thing? Isn't that the great thing about comedy? I feel like it is such a great unifier. And
100%,
funny is funny. And if and here's the thing, if you can make kids laugh, kids are tough. And it's funny. I used to, when I lived in Charlotte, I used to produce and host a clean comedy show. And it wasn't just clean comedy, it was family friendly comedy because I wanted this to be a comedy show for kids to be able to come to because kids don't get to come to comedy. And I remember the first one I hosted at the Comedy Zone in Charlotte. Mostly everybody who came, I knew I either went to work with them, I worked with them, or went to church with them, or something like that. And my coworker brought his daughter, and she looked like she was about 8 or something, and she looked like she'd rather be any place other than here. She was not having it. I walked in, I wanted to try to hug her. She was like stranger danger, like she wanted nothing with me. And then after the show, she comes running up to me and gave me the biggest hug. She goes, "That was amazing." I said, "Did you have fun?" She goes, "I had so much fun." And she became my why for why I kept producing that show because her reaction to it was just so fantastic. And I remember one time saying, I'm out greeting, people before the show, and I saw again, I mostly know everybody there, but then I saw this gentleman there and he had two teenagers with him. And I went and introduced myself to him and I asked him how he heard about the show, and I had advertised it someplace. And he said, I saw it in the paper because, I never get to bring my kids to a comedy show. So I love that, Jeff, that you're able to kind of, go across generations because I think that's so important because, everyone could use a laugh. I always say this, you ever see those videos on social media with the teachers when they have the different reactions as the kids are walking in and they greet them like, do you want a hug? Do you want to dance? Or do you want or something? And I'm always taken by the kids who want a hug because you never know why they need a hug. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So in that room, when we get to be in these places, you don't know who needs a hug, who needs to hear what you have to say, that funny story or joke or whatever, you know?
Right. I love that too. I always felt like my motto was laughter is an immediate connector because it doesn't matter what age, what nationality, what anything that we are,
Yeah.
that we're all the same the minute we laugh. We're all
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've gotten compliments from small kids to older kids. One time, a little girl walked up to me after a show and she kind of approached me in a way that I jumped back because kids scare me a little bit. Some of these kids can be scary. And I kind of moved back a little bit. And she walked by. She goes, "You were funny." I said, "You think so?" She goes, "Yeah, you were funny," and just walked off. And I said, "Okay, I'll take it." And then I was at another show, and the older lady said to me, "Girl, you need to get Depends to sponsor you because I almost went through my Depends laughing so hard." I was like, "I will take it, ma'am. I will take it."
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love too, like when people are giving you their feedback. You know what I mean? And some people share their opinion that you didn't really
Uh,
ask for too.
yeah,
Yeah.
that happened to a comic friend of mine recently. He was telling me, someone said to me, "Yeah, that joke you did on A, that was funny. The other one, not so much."
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
Did you
"Hey, what
fill
do you
out a
do with
comment
that?"
card?
Yeah.
Huh?
Pass out comment cards.
Oh my God. Exactly. It's like, do I
Right.
come to your job and tell you what to do,
Yeah.
sir?
I know.
Can you
I
Yeah.
love
imagine that though? If you went, I think there was a commercial like that back in the day. Like if you went to his job and he was an accountant, it's like, I think you added that wrong. Like, what are you doing there?
Yeah. Yeah, just follow somebody around, give them some
Yeah.
commentary. Yeah. That is funny. Yeah. Or they're like, "Oh, you should say this or add
Yeah.
this." And you're like, "Oh, well, if you want to write for comedians, jump in there."
And how funny is it that anytime people say, hey, you can use this, you almost will never use. Although I just got one that I thought was pretty funny. And I asked the guy, could I use it? He said, yes. You want to hear what it was? I
Yeah.
thought it
There.
was good. He said, do you know how I knew when I was a grown up? When I groaned when I got up. Is that's awesome? I was like, I'm
Yeah.
taking. I was like, can I have that? He said,
Yeah.
yes.
When you get up off the ground and you hear,
I love that. And I told him, I said, sir, usually when people say, hey, I got a joke, you almost kind of smile through it. That was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Or when people are like, "Oh, you're a comedian? Like what are some of your jokes?" And you're like, "I'm not a
tell me a
clown.
joke.
I'm not just like on."
Exactly. I'm not a Pez dispenser. I don't just spit them out. You know what I always say when they say, tell me a joke? I always say, what's your budget? That usually stops that.
Oh, oh.
That is the joke. I
Yeah,
love it.
exactly. What's your budget?
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. So, going to the Carnival Cruise shows, how are those different from like a regular comedy show, or do you feel like they're a little bit the same, or is it different because you're like still with everybody on that ship?
It's interesting in the sense that you have to have a lot of time prepared
I was
because
gonna say, does each show have to be different? Because you're on a cruise, so I mean, you're doing a number of shows, probably a
yeah,
day. Is each one different?
you're doing three different 30-minute sets. And
Okay.
there are on the there over the course of a sale, you may have five shows. You can have five or six shows. Um, two of the shows you can do the same 30, the other ones have to be different. So what is fantastic about it from a comedian standpoint is it forces you to write and keep creating material. And I
Yep.
love that about it. So, on the ships, people can say, oh, they'll have it listed very well that this is because all my shows have names to them. So they say, oh, we saw that show. Or they'll say, this is a repeat show, so they'll know not to come to it. But that's what I love about it so much is it forces you to keep writing and keep
Mm.
being sharp. And the folks are fantastic. And so they'll come to the shows and one woman, she came to all of my shows, which was so sweet and nice. And I really love the idea of meeting people because I'm a people person. So to sit and talk to people and get to know them on a different level also makes for a good time when you see them at the show. You have like this connection with them. One of the shifts I did, I just thought we had the best time because there was a different party going on, so our crowd was a little bit smaller. So we ended up doing something. I did more crowd work than I normally do. I'm not a big crowd work person. I'm not that good at it. So
Too
I know my
impromptu.
limitations, huh?
Too impromptu.
Well, it's
Like,
just like I'll say, "Hey Jeff, where you from? What are you doing?" Da 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 da. Just yeah, very impromptu. And so
yeah.
I'm not a big fan of it, just because I've seen and we talked earlier about Don Garrett, and I tease Don all the time. I was like, Don's really good at that. He's really good at that. But in any event, at this particular show, I was talking to a guy in the audience, and he mentioned he was single, and I said, "Did you come on a cruise by yourself?" He goes, "No, I came with my girlfriend." I said, wait, I thought you said you were single. He goes, well, we're not married, so I consider myself single. And then
Mm.
opened up this dialogue on the show. I'm like, who agrees with that? Who doesn't? And it was the best time. And we were like, it was fascinating. I remember coming off, the next day posted something on Facebook about it, and I had like 200 comments from people like, "Yeah, I agree with him. No, I don't agree." It was so awesome. So I love that. I love that you get to meet and talk to people in such a. I feel like you bond a little bit better with people on the ships.
Yeah, I love that. I love too
Yeah,
that you when you're including somebody and then they can still get to see you after and then
yeah.
it still has that impact later. But
Yeah,
that
and
is an
people are so
interesting
kind
topic.
and sweet, and they're really nice. It's really fun. And one woman was like, "Hey," when we got off for one of the ports, she's like, "You should go zip lining with us." I'm like, "No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I don't zip line." Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Shoot, I just had this really good question. Go ahead,
Yeah, I
Uh-oh.
Joe.
just got a quick question.
Yes.
So when you got into doing comedy on the cruise ships, is it different? I'd imagine the different to process to get to apply for something like that as opposed to just having a comedy show that you sign up for. I feel like they would have to almost scout out the type of comedy you are.
Oh, it's a process for sure.
That's
You work with a booking agent and you get vetted very heavily. Yeah, it's not
okay.
something that just happens like, "Hey, I think I want to do cruises next week."
Yeah, I'd say
It's
because like
it
if
takes
I
a
hire
while to get approved.
right to hire somebody for a comedy show, I mean you just
Yeah.
hire them. If they're good, they're good. If they're not, they're not. But a cruise
Yeah.
ship, you're
Yeah.
stuck out there, and they're selling a certain type of feature. You know what I
Yeah.
mean on the cruise ship. So I'd
Yeah,
imagine somebody had to vet you pretty well. Was that
right. And
stressful?
say it again.
Was that a stressful process just to get to that point?
You know what? I don't think it was stressful more so than it was. It's just like I was running a parallel path to prepare for it because I knew it was coming. And so I wanted to make sure that I was ready when it happened. I will tell you this, the first one I did, I was super nervous and super in my head because you're being evaluated. Every
Yeah.
time you do it, you're being evaluated. And so it's just like, they're not gonna like me. Oh, my booking agent, all this stuff. So once I relaxed, it became a lot more fun. But
Okay.
yeah, I don't think I was nervous during the process, but I wanted to make sure I was as prepared and as ready as I could be when it happened. And then,
Gotcha.
well, and I'll tell you a funny story about it. A part of the process, the reason it got held up for me is because I had an issue with my birth certificate. For reasons we don't understand, some nurse at Cumberland Hospital in Brooklyn 55 years ago put an extra R in my name on my birth certificate. So it read TARRA. And for the longest time, the state of New York would not let me correct it. It was all this stuff. And then I needed to renew my passport. So it was a whole process, and I had to do a bunch of stuff to get the passport. So I probably could have got on early if I had the birth certificate thing figured out. But
Gotcha.
I'm a firm believer that everything happens when it's supposed to happen, and this just feels like the right time for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I just wanted to add too during um some of the shows, I find that when I'm excited about my joke and I already know
Yeah.
it's going to be funny, I'm already laughing as I get to the end of the punchline,
Yeah.
and then people start laughing.
Because
So
they're
I don't,
laughing I love it.
yeah. So I don't know if I'm getting them from the joke or getting them from my laugh, but I don't care. It's a
You're like,
double
I'll take
value.
it. I'll take it.
It's a double
You know,
value.
you talked about your experience in the bar. I'll never forget one time I was doing a show at a pizza bar. I can give you stories about places I've had to do comedy, including once under a Confederate flag at a biker bar. And that was interesting. But and this guy, he was so drunk out of his mind. His eyes were only open to like slits, like you could just see slits. He
Oh,
goes, "You want to come spend the night at my house?" And I was like, "No, sir, I'm okay. I'm okay." I thought I told somebody I had laughed, and I said, "I can only imagine if the next one." I said, "Yeah," and the next one he gets up and see this black woman's laying on the couch. How would that have gone over? But yeah. But in any event, I remember once doing a show at a pizza bar, and there's this woman, she's to my left, and I'm here and I'm telling the jokes, and they're working and people are laughing. And we all know this, right? You can have the whole room laughing, but that one person who isn't laughing, you're just like, why are they not laughing? And I'm looking at them, but I'm seeing her out of my peripheral vision, and she's just like this the whole time. And I'm annoyed a little bit. And so finally I said something and she doubled over and laughed. And I turned to her and goes, "That was the one you were waiting on all night." But yeah, so I feel you with that.
yeah. I did
It's
have that
good.
at the have you been to the Comedy Catch in Chattanooga?
Yes, great club.
Great
Great club.
club. So
Hmm.
I had the same thing, and the tables are long, and
Yes.
so people are sitting sideways, and
Yep.
the lady right in the front was the same thing, arms crossed,
Uh,
wouldn't laugh, and it was really interesting because even if you have the same set for
yeah.
four different shows, you know, it's interesting that three can go great, and why is one different? You know what I mean? And
Does
it's the
that
same
not bug?
material.
That bugs you so much. It's funny. I two instances. Once I did a show at a country club with a couple other comedians, and we were all like hitting it. We were like, yeah. And I was like, there's gonna be a parade for us after this. Like they're loving us, right? I did that same set the next week, and I could have swore I heard crickets, and I was like, this was the same set, you know. So
Yeah.
they teach you. It's funny because you always taught it's never the crowd. I'm gonna call flag on the play. Sometimes it's the crowd.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I did the same joke last week and they was gonna throw a parade for me. So I don't know. I'm like,
I
I don't buy it.
know.
Yeah.
I know. I know. It is.
Mhm.
Oh, this is my question. So
Yes.
I don't know if you've had this experience or how you feel about this. So when you go to a show and being a people person, do you find that when you meet other comedians that you've had where some are very like they almost have a process before the show, so they're like, "Hey, don't talk to me," or they're almost kind of I guess I would call their attitude like ugly before
Mm,
the show, and then once
mm.
they get up there and you're like, oh, they killed it, but then when they come back it's like they're turds, and then you're like, I just I guess I don't understand that because I would never
Yeah.
act like that, so it's not
Yeah.
even in my wheelhouse. But I mean, I honor those people where they're at, and you can do whatever you
Yeah.
want. I guess I'm just surprised at you're crappy before you go on stage, and then you want these. You're here to make people
Because
laugh,
it's
but you
phony.
won't even talk about it.
It's
Talk to
phony.
anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
It's phony. You know, I had an instance, and I remember I was probably a year in doing comedy, and I was hosting for a comedian I really liked, like a headliner. And I was like so excited to, and I was so, you ever be around, you know, when you're in a green room, you're like, there's this dance you play. Like, I don't want to talk too much, or I don't, want to be standoffish. And so I had such a tremendous amount of respect for this comedian. And I had so many questions for him. And so it was a 3-day weekend thing. The feature act was a local comedian who he didn't treat me well. He
Mm,
didn't treat me well. He was kind of mean. He was a little standoffish. He was very snippy to me. He wasn't nice.
yeah.
And it soured my experience so bad that I was just like, I don't like this. So on the third night, I was like, I gotta talk to the headliner because I have this is a guy I admire. So finally I asked him, I was like, I don't want to interrupt your process, but he goes, I have no process. And he was so awesome. And he told me some stuff, and I told him, I was like, I noticed you didn't do X, Y, and Z joke. And he goes, I haven't done that joke in a while. And then at the last show, he did the joke. I was like, oh my God. So I had such a great experience with him. And I'm thinking to myself, if the headliner was this great, who is this feature guy to treat me like that?
Right.
And for a long time, when I saw this feature act on shows, I'd go the other way. I didn't want to do that. But what it also taught me to do is not be like that with other people. When
Right.
I
Yeah.
first came on the scene in Charlotte, and I'm grateful because they lovingly referred to me in Charlotte as the godmother of Charlotte comedy, which really meant a lot to me. And I have to give a shout out to a comedian named Chris Mons, who's the first person who ever called me that. But I took that very seriously in the sense, especially with the female comics. I wanted people to have a place of belonging and community because I remember when I came up, it was probably me and two other female comedians. And I felt like I didn't have that sense of community. And comedy can be very cliquish.
Mm,
It still is. And I remember going into the comedy zone and everybody had their little cliques and nobody was talking to me. And I sat to a table by myself. And I will never forget there's a comedian by the name of Deacon Dean. And Deacon Dean sat at the table with me and said, my name is Deacon. What's your name? And I never forgot. And I to this day I tell Deacon, you remember? He goes, Tara, I don't remember doing that. But it meant the world to me.
yeah.
So for me, I always wanted someone to feel the way Deacon made me feel. So I was extremely intentional when I was in Charlotte about making sure people felt supported and seen and so on and so forth. I remember when I was leaving Charlotte, I remember saying to one of the female comedians, I need to apologize to you because I didn't get out to as many of your shows as I wanted to. And she looked at me like I was crazy, but I wanted them to feel support. That was extremely important to me. To this day, what I love so much, I'll get texts and calls from comedians in Charlotte. Hey, what do you think about this? Do you think I should do this? And I love that because I always want to be that for people because I think it's very important to have community in this.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
too that they can almost see you as a mentor and how important your advice and your direction is for them.
And they always and I'm pretty sure they know it, but everybody who has my number knows I'm always available to them. And I love when they text me or call me and just, hey, I want to get your opinion. It means a lot. It really does mean a lot.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and it just shows that really like the job that you set out to do, you're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's very important.
And then the other piece of it too, I'm a person of faith, and you're taught, one plant, one waters, and God gives the increase, right? And that every in life there's a season for everything. My time there in Charlotte was up, but now what makes me proud is when I look at the comedy scene and there's a whole crop of comedians and they're doing great things and they're supporting each other. The women on the scene, it's a more robust scene. And like recently I was there with the Queen City Comedy Experience and there was a female comedian. I was like, hey, make sure you know her. Y'all connect with each other. But I'm so proud of what they created. And here in Nashville, where I am, this is a fantastic comedy scene. So many funny people. Loving getting to know them and working with them, and it's just been phenomenal. So I've been blessed to be on two really good comedy scenes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, we just had Drew Davis come down and
Drew's a sweetheart.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you remember something Drew said?
just
Yeah.
just funny. I mean, just and it's funny too, like when you meet people and you're like, oh my gosh, they just have like a funny vibe. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just like they don't even have to say anything, but um yeah, and plus it was great that he came down last minute, so that was super helpful during the
That's awesome.
fundraiser.
He's a good guy. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I'm excited. I know that we're gonna eventually meet up, so I'm
Yes.
excited.
Yes.
Um, oh man, just so great. Jeffy, do you have other questions? You look like you had another question.
No,
What
no other
No,
question.
is it just like, no, I'm just taking it all in.
Just
You know, the,
happy to
the
be
the
here.
the good thing too about being here is funny. One of the first people I had lunch with when I moved to Nashville was Drew. And he has a group, the Clean Comedy Collective, and they produce shows. He goes, "Do you want to produce a show?" I was like, "Nope," because when I did all of that stuff in Charlotte, like that was then. I don't want to produce any more shows because producing shows is a lot of work. And shout out to producers who do them. I said, right now, I just want to show up and you hand me a microphone and I do what I need to do, and that's the extent of that. But but even with that, I think it's also really important to understand kind of who you are as a comedian and what you want out of this. I tell people all the time, you don't find your comedic voice until you're at least 5 years in,
yeah,
at least 5 years in, because you don't know the comedian who you are. And the great thing about this art form, you're always learning
yeah,
about yourself and always getting better. And as I told you early, when I first started, I was talking so fast, and now I've learned to slow it down, and that feels good to me. You talked earlier about having shows that go, one show that goes well, and another one that doesn't. I will never forget this. Years ago, we had a show at the Comedy Zone in Charlotte, and the guy in front of me did well. The guy behind me did well. I did not get the audience. And I got off that stage, and literally, if I blinked, the tears were gonna flow. Like I just felt so bad. And then, and the guys were giving me a pep talk and whatever. And so, you know how they encourage you to tape yourself so you can look at yourself. It took me a long time to watch that tape, and I was just like, okay. Finally, when I watched it, I realized it was taking you too long to set up your jokes. It was a long night. People were ready to go home, and it was taking you too long. So that was something I had to learn about myself. It's just like, and that's another thing about understanding the room, reading the room. If these people have been listening to comedy for 90 plus minutes, and here you come, they don't need you setting up jokes for long periods of time. You know what I mean?
right.
So I love that we learn about ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. That is interesting.
Yeah.
How did you know you wanted to get into comedy?
Well, it's funny because everyone says to me, "Oh, you're living your dream." I kind of fell into this, and I'll tell you what happened. This was funny. My background is in PR, and I used to do PR for a television network, and the television network, a cable television network. And the cable television network I worked for, they did a lot of acquired content, like The Waltons, Little House on the Prairie, that kind of thing. Well, you can't get PR for shows that have been off the air for 40 years. So I wasn't busy at work, is what I'm trying to say, right? And and I'm used to I'm a New Yorker. I'm used to like this fast pace, and so I sitting. Most people would be like, "This is great." I need to be busy. Like I like being busy. But then so when I knew something had to change, is I remember being in my office one day and it was 2 o'clock, and I said I gotta move around. I left the office. I talked to the department assistant. I went to the ladies' room. I came back and talked to her again. And I went back in my office and it was 2:05. I was like, I'm going to die here. Like, I need to find a hobby. Like, I need to do something. So I Googled things to do in Charlotte, and comedy class popped up at the Comedy Zone. I was like, huh. And I took I guess it's a 7-week course. And as the cliche goes, the rest is history.
My gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
I have a funny story about how I got into it. So about
Yes.
I guess 25 years ago it would be I was at work, and in the morning, like I had a corporate job. I worked for a circuit board company for
Yeah.
17 years, and I walked into work one morning, just being funny, bubbly, and somebody's like, "Hey, you should do stand-up comedy." And I'm like,
Nice.
"Yeah, okay." And that was weird, right? Because you're like, "Okay, that's random. Why would you say that?" And then I go to lunch with a group of people, and they're like, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing stand-up comedy?" And I'm like, "That's that's weird. Why would you say that today?" You know what I mean? Like that's the
Yeah.
second time.
Second time.
And then by the end, there was a meeting at the end of the day at 4:30, and after the meeting, somebody asked, they were like, "Hey, can you stay after for a minute?" And they're like, "I don't know. I just feel like really pushed to tell you, like, I think you should be doing stand-up comedy." And I was like, three
Three
times in
times.
one day?
Wow.
Like, that is not a coincidence, right? That's
No.
like, the big guy's like,
Wow.
"Look, girl, like, you are not listening."
Yeah. That is so cool.
Yeah,
That is so
so
cool.
I had actually been going through some health challenges, and found out I had a tumor disease in my body, and
Okay.
then I was going to have spinal surgery. And so what I did is the my first surgery was going to be on a Wednesday, so Tuesday night I just booked a bar. They had $5 pizza and beer night. I
Yeah.
wrote 60 minutes of material, and we did $5 tickets. We sold 1,500 tickets.
Holy smokes.
Well, I wrote,
Wow.
yeah. Well, we raised our Oh no, I'm sorry. I sold 1,000 tickets because we raised
A
money.
thousand, fifteen
I,
hundred.
I know,
Still.
but
Yeah.
I mean the bar could only hold like 200 people, so other people just bought tickets, but they couldn't make it. And
That's
then
amazing.
yeah, did a 60-minute show. Sent all the money, all $5,000 to Ronald McDonald House.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so the whole thing, and then I didn't think about surgery the next day because it was pretty serious, and that was my first show that I did.
Wow. That's
Yeah, yeah.
amazing. Look
Thanks.
at
Yeah.
you. Wait, Jeff, I'm like, yeah, I got into comedy because I got bored. Yes, I had a life-threatening illness, and everyone told me. I'm like, I bow down. I
No,
bow
no,
down.
no. No, I'm just saying
No,
like it
that's
was just a
amazing. No, no
coincidence. Yeah.
seriousness. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I
Yeah.
think I opened for that show.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I think I had a mohawk at the time.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And I
She's
also, I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my ex-employer, INSP, because they have been so incredibly supportive of me over the years with comedy and just have been so great to me. And so much so that they used to let me MC the company Christmas party every year. And I did that, golly, for a good long while. And that also helped to hone my skills. And honestly, if I wasn't going to move to Nashville, I probably would still be there. But I took a leap of faith, excuse me, to leave my job and come to Nashville. One of the best things that happened for me is I had a meeting with the CEO, and he goes, "I'm sending you with my blessing." And he goes, and he said to me, which was so sweet, he goes, "If you don't like it, you can always come home." And so that just meant the world to me. So
yeah.
yeah.
And that
Mhm.
just shows too, like what kind of employee you are too for the company. You know what I mean? So
I
that says a
loved
lot
my
about
job.
you.
I
Yeah.
really loved my job. And
Yeah.
and like I said, if I wasn't going to be moving out of the state, I probably would still be there because I had a good situation and I really liked the people I work with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a big
Nice.
difference. Yeah.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
does.
Do you love it in Nashville?
I love Nashville. It's a
Yeah.
great city. People are very friendly. Like I
Yeah.
said, the comedy scene is great. I'm happy with the way I entered Nashville because it had been suggested to me probably a few years ago to move this way. So
Yeah.
I had pondered with it for a while. So while I was pondering, I kept coming back and forth. And that was really good for me because I got to know people on the scene. So
Yeah.
when I moved here in August of last year, I didn't come in so cold. I knew people. So,
Right.
but this is a fantastic scene. And like I said, I really like living in Nashville. I'm not here that much because thankfully comedy takes me different places.
Right.
So between the ships and the corporate and private work I do, I get to travel a lot. So it's a good problem to have. I'm actually still, as I talk to you, looking at moving boxes because I'm not fully moved in, which sounds weird, but it is. But my
Yeah.
mom's coming in a couple of weeks, so she'll knock all of this out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what moms do.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they do.
Yeah. That's interesting. I do have one more question for you.
Yes.
So, have you ever had where you went to, let's say, a lineup that you didn't necessarily know the whole lineup,
Yeah.
and you found yourself in like a, I guess I would call it like an interesting predicament where other people's style was way different than your style. So let's say if you're clean, and have you ever gotten to like a, I guess I would call it like a dirtier show that
Yeah.
was not your style?
I had two situations, and both of these happened earlier on. I remember one show, it just was not a good fit for me. And I remember thinking, why am I here? And there were probably five people in the audience. And I ended up saying to the guy, I was like, I'm not going up because I was listening to everybody and and I just didn't go up. And then the second time I was on a show and a guy, and I'd already gone up. And this was kind of an open mic type show. It was like a cross between an open mic and a showcase.
Okay.
And a guy got up there and he told some jokes that were so incredibly vulgar and vile that I said to the producer, do not ever put me on a show that he's on again. And I've never said that about anybody.
Yeah.
And she said, don't worry, he's not coming on, he won't be on another show. But that was the only two times I can remember. Usually I'm pretty adaptable because listen, my thing is my thing. I remember once I did a show and I didn't even see the girl do this because I was waiting in the wings and she was just on stage. And apparently she did a show where she thought it was necessary to pull up her shirt and pull down her bra and expose her breasts. I didn't see that. I just heard the crowd like going crazy. And then I got up and I just went to my set. I didn't acknowledge it or anything. So someone said to me after, how did you not acknowledge it? I said, hey, I didn't see it. You know what I
Right.
mean? But so my thing is my thing. And
What like is this a Vegas show or like what's happening?
I don't know
Like
why
Mardi
she,
Gras?
yeah, it
That's
was around the time when I don't even want to go into this because it's politically related.
Oh,
But
gotcha.
basically, she was like, he says it's cool to grab these, and that's what she did.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so outside of those two experiences, when A, I didn't go up, and B, I specifically told the producer never again.
Yeah.
I think I just kind of stay in my lane and put my blinders on, and
Yeah.
just like my stuff is my stuff. And the thing about me, what you see is what you get. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, when I did the thing at ETSU, I had said to my booking agent, I was like, they know my act, right? Because the college kids are not necessarily my ministry. You know what I mean? And when
Right.
I got there and they kept saying, Miss Tara, I said, yeah, it's gonna be something. But it actually was great. But yeah, so I just try to keep my blinders on and stay in my lane and do my
Yeah.
thing. And that's for them to figure out.
Yeah. I gotcha. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. I've had myself in a few situations where I didn't know the other comedians and
Yeah.
I didn't really do any research because I just trust that it's all going to work out how it should. And then found myself in between some comedians that were it was It was rough. The one show we did in Michigan was the very first time my daughter and her boyfriend came to the show. My
Yeah.
parents were there, and the one guy was so nasty that went right before me that all the lights like I think the big guy was just like pull the plug on all of
Yeah.
it because he shut all the lights off. Not even the exit lights were.
Wow.
I was like,
Wow.
whoa, where you are
That,
so just mortified. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, oh, I need a
But you know,
shower after all this.
I know, but you know what's been my experience too, because sometimes I'll get into my head with people really love the dirty stuff, right? And it sometimes can make you feel discouraged. But then you'll have these people who come up to you afterwards and say, I love that you don't have to use all of that language. I love that you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I think too, again, you bring such a light, and I mean you, Jenny, bring such a light and an energy, even if the person in front of you, two people ahead of you are doing that stuff,
right.
you are there to
Yeah,
deliver you.
right.
And people are going to appreciate who you are.
Yeah,
And it's not going to matter who else is on that lineup because I guarantee you, they're going to say, we loved her. She was the best one. Da 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 da. So I wouldn't even, I honestly don't even think about it so much of who's on it. I just want to be my best version of myself because you're going to always get this. So
yeah.
I told people a lot of times when I used to invite people to shows when I was in Charlotte from my church. And I said, let me tell you something. I can guarantee you what's coming out of my mouth. I
Right.
cannot guarantee you what's coming out of other people's mouth. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Unless I
Yes.
was producing my clean comedy show,
Yes.
I'm making no
Disclaimer.
promises. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And they understood that. And that
Yeah.
even with my clean comedy show, one of the things my qualifiers for anyone who was on the show, I told them no profanity, no vulgarity, no innuendo. If you cannot tell your joke to your mama or your pastor, you cannot say it at my show. And
Yeah.
so everybody understood that. So my thing is, what I would say is, I took a long way to say this. Don't, it doesn't matter who these people are on the show. You just be your authentic self, and people are gonna love that, and that's what they're gonna buy into.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been my experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. That's really the only thing you can guarantee. I can
Exactly.
guarantee that I'm going to laugh and I'm
Yeah.
hoping that you laugh and I'm going to share some material that hopefully makes you laugh. And I love that you said at the very beginning, we don't know what somebody's walked in here with and I just want to take this 10, 15, 30
Yeah.
minutes and I want to take all that away so that you don't get to think about it and we're just going to be here together and we're going to share in this and we're going to like raise the vibration and we're going to all feel better when you leave.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You know, and people respect and appreciate authenticity.
right.
And when you are your authentic self, people are going to love that. You know, before I left Charlotte, I had a going away party and my pastor came to it. And then even the next day, I went to church and he prayed for me in front of our congregation. He said something to me that hit me between the eyes, and I hadn't thought about it before. He goes, I'm sending you on assignment. And I had not quite looked at this as an assignment. And that's what it is. There's people in this world who need to laugh. So I dubbed this thing I do the laughter assignment because it's my job to make you coming in this room, you got a babysitter, you did this, it took you so much to be here. It's my job to make you feel good while you're here. I did a show for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation in August. And shout out to Chris Diorio and all those great
Yeah.
folks at the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation who are doing amazing work. And after the show, a woman came up to me and she said, you know, I saw you 3 years ago in Charlotte. And I said, you did? She said, and the day I saw you, it was probably the worst day of my life. And she started telling me what had happened to her. And she said, my friend said, let's go out to a comedy show. And she goes, I did not want to go. She goes, and we saw you and you made me laugh so hard that I forgot about what I was going through. That's what it is. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why you do it. And that's why, you know, some days when you're just the hard part, and I'm sure you could attest to this, when you perform comedy, you're always on. And
Right.
sometimes you don't want to be on. and sometimes you need a minute. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But someone's always looking for you to provide that. So this can take a toll.
Yeah.
And you really have to do those things for you to get you back to center, as I'm sure you know,
Yeah.
with, the spirituality work you do.
Yeah.
But when she said that to me, I was just like, there it is.
There it
That's what
is.
this is.
Yeah.
And she between her and the little girl who said, that was amazing. Like those are the things that keep you going,
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that too when people ask, what kind of comedy do you do? And I just say, it's literally this up on a stage. If
I
there's a
love it.
stage and a microphone, that's what you get. It's just
I love
this
it.
and I'm louder. That's if that's
Exactly,
even
said I'm louder.
possible.
I'm louder. But your energy, I tell you what, I could watch you all day because that, it's infectious with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm just so excited and grateful that you had time to share with us and share your story, and I'm excited for our audience to meet you, and I can't wait to finally meet you when we
I can't
get to
wait for
meet
us to
you.
share a stage.
I know.
We got to share a stage.
I know. I would
I
love
look
that.
forward to that.
I
We
would
got to
love
make that
that.
happen.
Yeah, yeah. And then
I,
Jeff
I
Jones
thank
will have
y'all
to
both for
visit.
having me. And Jenny, I am so
Yeah.
elated that we finally got to do this. And thank you for reaching out to me. It's such an honor. And like I said, I'm not even kidding. Even when I see your social media posts and they're always so joyous.
Yeah.
And no, it really does a lot. So you
Yeah.
continue to be that.
I appreciate that.
Continue
Same
to be
same
light.
with you, and I'm excited to see how we get to. I don't. I not. We don't even have to change the world. I'm just ready to make the world laugh. You know what I mean? And that can be 5 people or 500 people at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, and I'll say this one last thing. Isn't it great though in our worlds though that we can try to find humor in everything?
Oh, I
Isn't
love.
it
That's
the
my
best
favorite
thing?
thing to look for all day, every day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like where I'm like, just give me things to talk about and laugh about
Yeah.
and find. And I mean everything from like walking into the grocery store when like the hot air blows you, and I'm like,
Ugh,
look, I'm going through perimenopause. I don't need that hot breath on
I
me
don't
right
need the
now.
extra stuff.
I don't
I don't
need
need the
that. Get off me. Like,
I just told my mom I was literally going to Publix she called me. I was going to Publix and pick up Chinese food. And she said, hey, what you doing? I said, actually, I'm running to the supermarket and I'm going to pick up food. And she goes, yeah. So anyway, about my day. And I was like, this woman has no self-awareness.
that's
And so
what
I told her, I said,
that's
I
what
am so writing a joke about this. Because
Yeah,
she just
that's
was
actually what
like,
we do in our family chat. We're put
really?
yeah, we do. Don't worry about me, and then we list everything that's just happened about us. Like,
I need to get my mom in y'all's group chat because
yeah,
she was just like, I don't know if she didn't hear what I said or she didn't care what I
yeah,
said, but she was just
Uh,
like, yeah, that's good, but here's what I got going on. I was like, okay.
yeah, don't worry about me. Just had
yeah,
a
I
grocery
love
cart
that.
pin me up against a Honda Civic for
yeah,
20 minutes.
Oh my gosh, you
yeah,
guys are amazing.
yeah. Good times,
Yeah.
good times. Well, where can our audience find you?
Yes, please. On Facebook and Instagram at Tara Brown Comedy. Everybody keeps sending me stuff for Blue Sky. I don't know what it is, and I haven't
I don't
figured it
know.
out. So I'm like, I'm not doing that yet.
Yeah.
But Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and TikTok for now. This
Okay.
TikTok will be a thing next month.
Tara with one R.
Yeah, Tara
Yes,
with
Tara
one.
with one R. Tara, Brown like the color comedy. Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. And also I have a newsletter I do if people want to
Oh,
sign up for that at tarabrowncomedy.com. So
Okay.
that'd be great.
nice.
But again,
Awesome.
thank you both for having me. This was wonderful.
Yeah.
Nice
Thanks
to
so
meet you.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah.
for
Good
being on.
times. Yeah.